We're live. Welcome to week 13. I think last week I said 10, but this really is week 13. Yeah.
I really
I'll have
don't
to go
know.
back and watch it.
I was like,
Should
I
check
don't
these things
remember.
before we sign in. Yeah, we're in week 13 now
We're
of the
11.
Crazy Writer Chicks live events.
Okay.
No, because last one was 12 and I just edited that one. I think we're at 13. Whatever, we're here. And
Okay.
apparently
That's
on
right.
time today for the
Makes
first
me
time
track.
ever. So don't curse anything. We're going to knock on wood and keep our fingers crossed that everything works. But I am Nikki Rome, and I've got Rebecca White with me in Winter Navita, like
Hello.
usual, on our ever so fun and exciting Tuesday night conversations about pretty much whatever we want to talk about. And so this week we are talking about the love of food and family, because I couldn't come up with a better title for what it is. But the reality is this kind of spawned from our conversation last week, right? Because we were talking about healing or properties of food, which if you haven't seen that, we'll have the video up on our YouTube page, hopefully in the next few days here as I catch up with the rest of them. And at the end of it, I had shared how there's so much good that comes from food and food traditions and culture and everything that revolves around food for so many of us that we often overlook because we're so quick to talk about the bad,
Yeah.
right? It's like we love talking
Yeah.
about all the bad things that food does to us and the way it makes it feel and the way it makes us look, but we forget all the tradition that is really stemmed in food and eating and entertainment. Which, some nutritionists will say is terrible, but
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that. I've heard some people talking, one in particular recently, about looking at food as, well, food as fuel, I get, but as strictly fuel and not as
right.
entertainment and not as something to comfort with. And I mean, yeah, it could be unhealthy if you take it too far, but I think it's one of the beautiful things in life.
Goes with it.
It's like
I
art,
would agree.
right?
The culinary arts aren't called the culinary arts for nothing.
The culinary sciences.
Although what I do in the kitchen isn't necessarily art. But I agree with you 100%. In fact, I had a nutritionist once years ago who told me not to treat myself like a dog, that I don't deserve a treat for doing something good. And I was like,
wait, she said, don't tell you that?
Don't treat yourself like a dog.
Don't treat yourself.
Which was an interesting concept because if you think about it, we do often celebrate with food as well. But I think what I was kind of leaning in towards at the end of our conversation last week is more like about the bonding that happens in a kitchen, the camaraderie of putting a meal together with family and friends and sharing dishes and all this stuff that goes with it. I have an echo tonight. I don't know why. I'm sorry. But that part of it to me is probably awful, but more important than the worries over what I'm putting in my mouth during that specific meal. I mean, you got 3 meals a day, 7 days a week to be perfect. Sometimes you got to take a day to just kind of enjoy and be around other people and socialize and share traditions. And so that's where my thought process was when this week's conversation.
Yes, well, I agree.
Myself the past couple weeks. I lived in Florida for 3 weeks visiting, and I got to see the two of you, which was awesome. But
we forgot to go
happened
live.
to be in the household with.
I know.
Oh, I found someone who enjoyed eating the same type of food as me. And for you who didn't watch last week, I'm vegan, so I love food and I can help heal your body, and it's good for you. But when I cook at my home, which I'm back home in San Diego now, no one wants to. I cook for just myself, and there's kind of not really joy in the cooking. So like I sometimes don't go and cook, or I wait till the last minute to cook. But I promise you, I was in Florida and someone was looking forward to the meals. Like I was like, is it time to, like I was looking forward to actually cooking, because sharing the food, there's just something about sharing it and someone enjoying it that is very pleasant. And I enjoyed it more.
Yes,
like
I agree.
I enjoyed the food.
Yeah,
and it just
absolutely
made me want to be healthier because it was easier because someone else wanted it too. A couple days ago where I ate avocado and potato chips because I didn't want to cook. I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. If I live by myself, I don't know. I don't think I would cook very often at all.
My husband worked on a cruise line for about a year, and when he was gone, I would admit there was many nights of like peanut butter and jelly and cereal. And I used to always make fun of my mom because she would like eat that for dinner, and I'd be like, why don't you eat like real food? But my father was working out of town at the time and often does for most of his career. And so she always makes like she'll be like, oh, I had a piece of toast for dinner. And I'm like, that's not food. But then when my husband was gone for a year, I was like, I had a piece of toast for dinner. It's not much fun unless you're cooking for others too. I mean, I'd maybe cook 1 or 2 meals, like actual meals a week, but it's not as much fun, is it?
No.
It's not.
No, and cooking myself
something about
cooking by myself isn't fun either. We are on a little bit of a delay, so we're like quiet and then all talking at once.
Becky,
yes,
you said
I'm always on a second delay.
That's a cattail.
Yes, he's come to harass me.
Okay, you said it's not fun cooking by yourself.
You found a snake
not as much
today.
What kind of snake?
We live in Florida. There's like 5 snakes on my patio right now.
But what the kind of snake?
It was a gopher snake, a big one.
Okay.
And so it was like about to go into our garage, I guess, and the dog was like, and so it was a big deal for us. And we had it's like an event half hour. And then we couldn't find the snake to put him in a safer place to keep him safe from the dog. So, and I thought of all that.
Remind me when we hang up to send you my video of the gator we had last week.
And
last week, 2 weeks ago?
Probably a couple weeks because I was there since.
Yeah, it was.
I still
maybe
forgot
3
to bring
weeks ago. We had a gator
when I was in Florida.
From our property. Oh, I had one in my yard the other day. I'll send you the pictures. Tangent.
Gosh.
This is Winter's a nickname.
What I'm best at.
She did something. I don't even know. Snakes. I mean, we can talk about eating snake if we want, but I wasn't a big fan.
Did you have it?
Mm-hmm.
I've never had it.
It's tough meat.
I would
expect it didn't taste like chicken?
No. It was a little gamier than like a chicken. It tasted a bit more like a gator, but even gator's more tender than snake. I don't know. Maybe it was the way it was prepared. I've tried a lot of weird foods. And since I've met my husband, I've tried even more, but not because of him, because he's not the adventurous one when it comes to food. It's his mother. She's a big organ eater, and I'm not. The only thing I've ever done is
for the dog.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the freezer.
You do not like
all
it?
Diced up. I'm not going to eat it. I don't even like the smell of it. The organs from my pig. For anyone who doesn't remember or know.
Oh yes.
I got the whole hog, including the head. Yeah,
I was like, nope.
The head and all the not
like,
all
if you
the
don't
organs.
Want to watch, I'm like,
but
it's like I'm not watching.
I put warnings, trigger warnings on.
I went to Mexico City. She did, and they eat cow. They eat eyeball tacos and tongue tacos and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm totally good. I wasn't vegan at the time, but I was still totally good. Have you guys tried those things?
Well, I'm sure it would have been safer than the lettuce.
Is very common. I've done beef tongue. Beef tongue is very common. I've not done an eyeball of anything. I'm not a fan of chicken hearts. Although, I mean, again, I feel like we're extremely far off topic here. But if we want to correlate the two, I mean, in some cultures it's very common. It's Italian. I don't know if it's an Italian thing, because apparently my husband's family is Nicaraguan and they do the same thing, but they used to like they would fight over the eyes of fish. It was supposed to make you smarter. But then they also told us that carrots help you with, have good eyesight, and eat them all the time. It never helped. So there's certain traditions I think that are passed down that might just be a load of baloney, but they're still fun. Like the 12 grapes at Christmas. Does anyone else do that?
The what?
The 12 grapes at Christmas.
Grapes? No.
Not at Christmas,
where did she
New
go?
Year's. You just last winter.
Boom.
Just
no,
quickly.
We always had this thing though, like if you didn't pray before you ate, then you would get worms.
Okay. So yeah, same thing.
Right, because obviously you're not going to get worms because you didn't pray before you ate, but
you might get worms for other reasons, but not for that.
My favorite thing was how, okay, this is not actually a tangent, but it's a specific story because I like them. So years ago at this church in Delaware, and Winter knows the church I'm talking about, we would do this thing over the winter, what did they call it? Like a progressive holiday dinner. So we would go to one place and we would have some like appetizers and soup, and then we would all drive to another house and have a main course. Then we would all drive to another house and have dessert. And because it's a church, like they couldn't just not pray for like every single thing. So by the time we got to the dessert, everyone's looking at each other like, okay, well, we need to pray for the dessert, but like, what do you say? Please bless this to the health of our bodies. Like, doesn't really work because it's literally crap. Like, not literally, but and it was just this funny thing, like everyone becoming aware at the same moment that this made absolutely no sense at all. I mean, it was a great time. It was.
Thank you for this deliciousness.
Yes. Please help it not to go to our hips. Yeah. So anyway, that was funny. But that's some of my best food memories are church food, because we came from a church background where we had potlucks like at least once a month, and people would bring, and then every event, like there was food, either a dinner or just lots of snacks. And we actually had conversations about toning it down a little, because it got to where it felt like that was more important sometimes than like everything else. And it starts to show when you like eat large amounts of food several times a week because everyone else is. So we go back to the downside of it again, but good memories though.
Well, I'm Italian, so every memory I have revolves around food. But a meal it's like hours long ordeals. Like, I mean, every Sunday we would be at my grandmother's for dinner, and now I take my kids every Sunday to my parents for dinner. It's those types of traditions that the food's important, but doing it and seeing it and spending time with family every week is more important.
Sure.
And then there's things like, I mean, we have religious type of dishes and foods and things we do. Like we do the 7 fishes at Christmas Eve, and certain things that you eat at certain holidays. But there's always a lot. And most of the time you're sitting there. In fact, I had this conversation with my kid's occupational therapist, because I'm like, now that we're focusing on like manners at the table, it does not take that long to eat, which had boggled my mind. I mean, if you just sit and you don't talk and you just eat, your food is in your body within like 10 minutes. Like there's not much more that you're doing.
Or 2 if you're my child.
Right. Well, that's where it was. This stemmed from pacing my kids, because it was either a 2-hour dinner or like a 10-second dinner. And she was like, no, it does not take long to eat. And I'm like, okay, I don't understand that concept, because I am Italian. And so like you start cooking at 3, you eat at like 5 or 6, and you clear the table at like 9 o'clock at night. And even when we're home and it was just me and my husband, it would be we'd sit at the table for a while, and you're talking and you're socializing, you're talking about
Mhm.
your day, and you're doing all this stuff, and there was so much else that went into every meal that it was insane to me, the little teeny tiny amount of time that you are actually putting food into your mouth.
I think it's great though. It's healthy. It's healthy to not just shove it all in. I mean, you can also
Probably.
overindulge if you're not paying attention. It's like watching TV, you know, and you
Definitely.
just keep eating. In fact, we have to stop Trooper often if we're all sitting around talking because he'll just keep eating as long as there's something still on the table to eat, even though he's not at all hungry. So
Right.
I set it aside. But that's another kind of issue for him. But it's good. Like, it's just really
Yeah.
good to sit and talk. And we do that pretty often too. Trooper usually gets up and walks away after a while or goes out and plays because it's too much for him. But
Bored. Yeah. Well,
we
it's funny
can
because
gab.
when we were in Europe, I mean, here obviously in the United States, they bring you your tab as soon as they brought you your food. They're ready to move you on to the next person. And when we were in Europe, you're like chasing down a waiter, being like, "Can I pay? I'm ready to go." And it was such an interesting concept to us, except for when we were in Switzerland, because they brought the food and like literally brought the thing right to our table to swipe our card before we started eating. But other places we had been, we were like, this is so weird. We can't find anybody. We want to pay. We want to leave. But, you know, the more you realize it, it's like, because that's normal for them is, you know, long meals and enjoying time together. And I think that's a really, really big part of it is sharing a meal, breaking bread. It's a bonding experience, regardless of who you're with, you know?
Mm-hmm.
When I was in Italy,
Yes.
it was like that. Like meals were a real thing. Like it was an event regular. Like my mom did not enjoy, so it was like a fin for yourself, except for at Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving, everybody showed up because we were like a meal, which is cool. But in Italy, it's a thing. You sit down for lunch, down for dinner, and it's a full meal. And you sit and you talk. And you go to a restaurant. You don't just show up and eat and go. It's a whole thing. And the waiter comes and talks to you. The owners talk to you. You talk to people at the other tables. They're having karaoke in the like. It's normal to say. And one time we went at lunch and we were like, oh, because they close between lunch and dinner in Italy.
Mm.
Unless you're in a tourist town, they actually do have Seattle. They sleep, they go home, the dentist home, the chef goes home, everybody goes home. And so we showed up because we were not aware. We were hungry Americans and everything was closed. And so they let us in. And so they fed us and we tried to eat fast. And they were like, down, take your time, relax. And we're like, you're closed. They're like, relax. and that's the way it is. They don't expect food to be a fast. They say enjoy it. And another good thing about food in Italy is they actually go out to enjoy food, whereas we go out and work out to deprive ourselves. They actually have vending machines and pitchers, pizza, and candy bars in the you're working out so you can enjoy.
Oh no.
And we lost her again.
That's such a funny idea.
Well,
Looking at food
though, right?
instead of
it's a totally different
supermodels.
Outlook. Hey, I mean, I might run on a treadmill to get some pizza later, but I ain't running on a treadmill to look like someone I ain't never going to look like. So it's a pretty good marketing ploy there.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I mean, isn't America, and I'm just literally making stuff up right now, but I would venture to say this is probably true. I mean, don't we have more fast food locations than probably any other country in the world? I mean, it would be hard to think that we don't.
I'm sure.
Every corner, there's 3 or 4. We're running through getting food everywhere. Like just fast, quick, driving through, eating it in our cars, running off to our next thing. A long lunch is frowned upon. I mean, it's like, wait, you need an hour for your lunch? What are you doing for an hour? And I've been one of those managers that have asked that question. Yeah. Why are you arguing with me that you need an hour? Go sit down and eat and get up and get back here to do your job. But I mean, that's the awful part of our culture here is that you're constantly expected to be doing something else other than enjoying yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something
Because
I've
for
been trying to
us, food
balance.
doesn't mean internet; it means sustenance.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't, though. It's almost like, I mean, it does, but it's like a
It's supposed
solo
to.
guilty pleasure.
Mm.
Like people stay at home and eat junk. So it's not really sustenance. I mean, potato chips, you know,
True.
I mean, I guess if you need quick calories, fine, but it's not really for health. It's like
That's more like the
drinking. Drinking
addictive
at a
nature
bar
of
is
our
healthy.
personalities.
Drinking at home is not.
It's supposed to be for
Or drinking
energy.
alone at home.
Well,
Just to judge
unless
yourself
you're
and come back to
drinking a
work.
glass of wine at night with dinner, then maybe it's healthy
Well, if
versus
you're
getting
with
wasted at a bar.
somebody, right? But well, they did some science because here I go. But I don't remember where I read about this, but they had shown that drinking alcohol was good for you, but it turned out that it's really going out and socializing that's good for you. So, not that it would be, as long as you don't have any health reasons why you shouldn't drink a glass of wine with dinner or even a beer or whatever, like that's not necessarily bad, but staying at home and drinking is not, like, it doesn't build your immunity or all the things that they thought that drinking did for you, because it's the social interaction, whether you're, because people don't go out to places like bars, except not bars, to eat a nice meal for 3 hours, right? And if they did, they'd probably be a lot better off. And in fact, maybe we should do that. What if we did that?
What are we going to do?
Like
We're
if
going
you
out to eat?
had like if you had a place like in Italy, but not where it wasn't just necessarily your family. There was more like a bar where you could sit at a bar with lots of people and talk, like on a cruise ship when you, I don't know if you've been on, but like you sit down at a table, you might be with a whole bunch of people that you don't know and you get to know them and you talk and you.
I think they call those restaurants. We already have them,
But
right?
you
Like
don't sit with people at a restaurant. Yeah, like
There's quite a few
hibachi.
that do.
She's saying
Hibachi would be the right idea.
I got a hibachi.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hate people, so I wouldn't go, but it's a good idea in theory.
Not that I have $100,000 to open up a restaurant right now.
But if anybody wants to invest, feel free to reach out to Rebecca.
Let's talk. I'll put that on our thread in Crazy Writer Chats next time. What are you up to? Looking for sponsors.
You make some good points. To me, honestly, though,
Eat and mingle.
me personally, the sitting at the table and talking is not the most important part to me. To me, it's the preparation of the meal. I have more memories and more enjoyment out of preparing a meal and getting it ready to serve people than I do sitting at a table for hours talking to the same people.
Well, that's why we're going to run the restaurant.
Okay,
then we can prepare the food.
I could do that with you. I mean, I can cook.
Come on, Winter. We can have a strong vegan
have vegan
presence
options
in the menu. Yeah,
I can do that.
I'm down. There's a small. I'm moving to Florida anyway, so we'll talk.
Oh, come on down.
Chance.
We're ready. Hey, I told you to take your converted van and park it out here on my farm, man. Only at certain times of the year. It's not like a daily occurrence.
Right. It's not like the mosquitoes, which are here all the time.
I'm not down.
And right now we have yellow flies, so you might want to wait until the summer's up.
I hate yellow flies. They are.
They're so bad. There was one in the truck the other day, and I literally was about to light the truck on fire. It was so bad.
They're like horse flies.
Size of horse flies, but they hurt like a bee sting when they get you.
Yeah, like deer flies and horse flies. Yeah, they're biting flies, and they will just keep coming after you.
Yeah, they don't.
I didn't even know
killed
that
like
was
6
a
at the park one time.
Welcome
Oh,
to Florida.
cat!
Dude.
Sorry, cat's attacking my computer. She's jealous.
Like that? They made you feel like that.
What? I missed that.
I just said tangent again because we're not
make
talking
you feel like
about
that
food.
because you like jumped like you had
Well,
by a fly.
when she hits the computer, it knocks the
Yellow
phone
fly.
over onto this. Oh yeah, the yellow flies are seriously painful. They were after me one day at the park.
Never
I
even
killed
heard
like
of
6
them
of them.
before tonight.
I hadn't
They're in
either
our
until I
front
looked them up
pond.
because I was being attacked. I was like, what
Sorry.
on earth is this terrible thing?
We have
Yeah.
them in the front of our property near the pond, which we just planted a series of tomato plants in the front. Like, Becca, you know where you walk into my front door?
Mhm.
Trying to find a place where I can grow tomatoes that they won't literally catch on fire in the Florida sun right now. And so we planted like 6 of them there, but I had to clear it all. And so we were getting attacked by every bug imaginable. Because, you know, in typical fashion, I bought 1 cherry tomato plant because it's the only thing that grows in the summer. And I'm like, I want to go back to the store and get another. I went back to the store and there wasn't another. So what does my husband do? Comes home with 6 more. It's like the chickens all over again. So I'm like, I have no place to put
He's
6
ambitious.
tomato plants in the, like, I have one planter box. That's it. Very tiny. So they're now planted by our front door. We'll see if it works. Which brings on a whole other conversation.
Nikki,
like
what can
growing our
story?
own food
Yes.
is another.
Growing the food and then cooking it.
Do you
It's
want
just
my
that much
chicken
more
story?
valuable.
Yes, that is so beautiful.
Tell the chicken story. It's sad. It's a sad
It
chicken
is.
story. I have a sad duck
But it's
story
getting
too.
It's sad?
happier.
Oh, I don't
Becca
wanna
had
hear
a
a
sad
sad
duck story this
story.
week. I'll eliminate details.
Oh, I'm sorry, Becca.
So Becca and I ordered ducks and chickens because we're those people. And she wanted more ducks, and I'm like, oh, well, I want fancy chicken, so let's order them. So we placed an order from a hatchery. And they came, and we were already down 1 duck. And so then what did I order at the time? I had 8 chickens. 8 chickens. And I had them in a brooder in the garage. And then I had 6 chickens. And I had no idea what happened to the other 2 chickens. But obviously something was living in my garage.
Just
They
little
were
baby
so
chicks.
tiny, like literally baby, super baby chicks. They were not even, they were like
a couple
2 days old.
Yeah.
Which I wake up in the morning and I'm counting them like a crazy person. And I'm like, there's 6. Is there really 6? And came in the house and then I went back outside and I'm like, there's got to be more than 6. Well, the night before I had a chick with a pasty butt. Look it up. I'm not getting into it. So my husband had taken them all into a bin and like brought them all in the house because I was asleep by the time I got home. And he's like, which one has the pasty butt? So long story short, we fixed pasty butt chicken. He puts them all back in there. So the next morning I'm like, how many chickens did you take out of the brooder last night? Because there's only 6 in there right now. And he's like, there was 6. I'm like, no, there wasn't. I ordered 8. So after an argument and me literally having to pull the invoice out to prove that I had 8 chickens at one point, we realized that there was something in the garage. So we cover the brooder. And the next morning I woke up to a little baby chick that didn't make it through the night because something got into the brooder but couldn't get out with the chick. But I didn't know that was the case at the time because I couldn't really tell if it had been attacked or if it was just sick or whatever. And so we take care of it. And the next morning, the same thing happened again. And then we realized that we had a snake that was getting into the brooder at night. Winter's now hung up on us because she doesn't want to hear the rest of the story.
I don't blame her, but
here she is. So now I'm down to, what was I down to at that point? I think I was down to 4 chickens. So I'm like, no more. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm moving the 4 chicks into the house. So I moved the 4 chickens into my bathtub. Okay. You're going to say, Stacey, you're going to live in my bathroom. No problem. My husband goes to the feed store because I needed goat food. He's calling me and he's like, I got you a surprise. And he's all proud of himself. And I'm like, maybe he got me another chicken. That would be really sweet of him. He didn't get me another chicken. He got me 8 more chickens. Now, let me remind you that I already have 6 practically full-grown chickens in our chicken coop already. Now I have 8 new baby chicks plus the 4. So I've got 12 chickens living in a bathtub. It gets better. So they start getting bigger and I'm like, well, I need to move them outside.
Right
like
now?
They can't live in this bathroom forever. Oh hold on. So I moved, like they're getting bigger and they're starting to like fly around the bathroom. Like they're
stinks.
getting out of
They
the
stink.
bathtub. They smell. I'm like constantly having to clean chicken poop all day long. Otherwise, like my hallway would smell. Like they're big chicken, like they're getting big. So I buy this big fancy like outdoor brooder thing, no top on it though, just something to keep them confined, get extra heat lamps, set everything up pretty. Put them in on Friday night. Saturday night I go out there to check water before bedtime. There's a effing snake in the coop and it's got a chick. My kids are asleep and I'm screaming like a maniac. So I make my husband come out, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, we're down another chick. So I took those 11 chickens and put them back in my damn bathroom. So right now I have 11 chickens that are nearly 6 weeks old living in my bathtub. I put a brooder in there to give them a little more space. My bathroom's literally tarped and pine chipped. And they're going to live in there until they're big enough to fend off a snake because I'm done. So if you come to my house, it very likely smells like chicken poop right now. But Becca, I'm gathering some really good fertilizer for your banana trees.
I appreciate that. And I need to bring you back your stuff.
Yeah. So now, as of right now, I have 11 chickens living in the bathroom and 6 living in the coop. These ones, they could, if they were big enough. Chickens have been known to eat a snake. If they're small
they
enough.
get big and they can be pretty feisty.
Yeah.
Unless it's a bird coming down from above, which they can't necessarily do anything about. But
and to be fair, they had hardwire mesh, which is not even a half an inch wide in thickness. Like the chicken wire they sell at stores isn't really supposed to be used on coop. So it was a very small chicken. It was a very small snake. If they were bigger, then they probably would have just stomped it to death. But no, I've got chickens everywhere right now. I have so many chickens, we're having to build an addition on the chicken coop before I can move them outside. And Becca, you've seen the size of that coop, but I can't put that. I mean, we're literally talking, what, 17 chickens now? I can't. It's just the love of food.
That's right.
Eggs. Let me be clear, eggs. These are not meat birds.
Right. Not eating the chicken. Just the eggs.
So you wanted the chicken story. And that, my friend, is how I had 17 chickens.
Chicken story.
I know.
And
I don't.
How you're about to build a bigger chicken.
I love the man, but like 8 chickens? And then he did it again with the tomato plants. I needed 1. He bought 6. I mean, I don't even know what to say to him anymore other than thank you and I love you. So but after 10 years of marriage, I think that he would know I didn't need 8 chickens to feel better. They're so damn cute now. I don't even know what to do. I want to buy more. It's bad. It's a problem.
So he was right.
Chickens are like tattoos.
He was right. He was totally right.
You can't have just one.
I married an enabler.
They did.
I mean, to be fair, the whole reason why we bought our farm is because I wanted baby goats. I know.
Oh, that's so sweet. And to be from people.
True. I also don't like people. But
and you're inviting me to go in your yard.
I am. I mean, why not? There's 6 acres. You could pick a corner and remind me. I just, you know, and it's funny because I will say, I mean, if we were to kind of connect the dots here, I can connect the dots. So hear me out. We're creating all new traditions for my kids, right? Like my daughter is obsessed with these chickens. I can't tell you, like every day she's outside and she's like, kissing chickens and holding chickens and singing to chickens and like looking for eggs, even though we're months away from that. And like the whole idea of it is really, it's motivating. I mean, Becca, I know you see it with Trooper, especially with the garden that you guys have and being able to eat, like him seeing stuff come off of plants and eating it and so forth. Trying to get to that point with my kids. My daughter, I think, is finally starting to get to it, but my kids haven't put 2 and 2 together that the chicken they eat on their plate is the same thing as the chickens that they're kissing in the backyard. So when that day happens, it's going to be a tough conversation. But building some of that tradition up for the kids, I think, is equally important. Kids need to know where their food is coming from. I had a niece at our old house. We had a big garden, and I had my niece with me one day and we were picking tomatoes for the salad. We had people coming over. And so she was all excited. She's picking them all. We're carrying them in the house. And she goes, well, what are we going to do with them now? I said, we're going to cut them up and put them in the salad. And she goes, we're going to eat them? And I was like, it's a tomato. Yeah, we're going to eat it. Where did you think they came from? And she literally said to me, the grocery store. And she was like 11. And I'm like, oh, girl, we got a problem here. No, she wasn't necessarily brought up in the kitchen like I was. I mean, at 3 years old, I was taught how to cook and clean and follow after my father or my grandmother in the kitchen. Where her family they don't cook a lot of homegrown meals, but even still, I was like, really? And she was just astonished with the whole idea of washing it, cutting it up, and putting it in the salad. She didn't eat it, but she liked the idea of it. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's like, it's been outside, close to bugs. I can't.
Like, I've known people who wouldn't eat meat on the bone because it was too realistic. And my feeling is don't eat meat if you can't in good conscience eat it, knowing that it's meat, then you really shouldn't eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I've been told I have an overdeveloped sense of right and wrong. So like, yeah, that's how I feel like if you have to camouflage it, although I admit that a lot of my life, my favorite meat was hot dogs, and probably because it didn't feel like meat.
One of my favorite meats is hot dogs, and it's because it's salty, fatty goodness.
Well, there's that too.
And I have to admit, it had a taste to it myself.
Trooper was like 4 and ate 4 hot dogs at one meal. Someone finally said, have you?
I remember
Is it okay if Trooper eats another one? Well, he would steal things at potlucks and stuff too. Yeah, like
he did that at my house. I think he did that at either the
I think he did it at your house.
Party.
Well, I put it in the book that happens at Nikki Rome's house. So that might be what you're thinking of. But he has done that before a couple times where like he would just eat them.
Well, and it's funny in a mixed setting like that, you don't even realize what's going on. But I know, just because you had told me, I know that he overeats. And I'm often in the kitchen. And I remember catching him at one point. And I was like, how many of those have you had? Maybe you should check with your mom first. He's like, I don't know. This is like my second one. Because he really doesn't know. Like, I really don't. He really doesn't keep track of it. He's just like, oh, this looks good. I'm going to eat it.
Yeah. I once caught him at somebody's birthday party eating they had like trays of sausage and crackers and cheese, and there's a word for that but I can't think of it. And I looked over and he I saw him take a sausage slice, like slices of salami or something, and then set it down, and I was like, oh no. And I went over and I'm telling you, like a dozen or more slices with a bite out of it on the tray.
See, but I love that stuff because I'm like, oh, look at it. It's just a kid. That's just hilarious.
And he was really small then. I don't think he would do that anymore. I mean, except at home when it's just us. But we do still have to like keep him from eating other people's, so like, are you going to eat that? Or just taking it off your plate? Like, no, like consent here, like ask before you snatch.
Let's go with consent. But he spends a lot of time in the kitchen with you, preparing food and stuff as well.
Sometimes, yeah, it depends. There are times when he does. When he was little, he did more. Before he could really even stand up, I would set him on my bar stool that doesn't have a back or anything, and at the counter, and have him, like, he would stir things on the stove, and I'd give him like a not very sharp knife to cut things up. So he does like it. I just have to ask him to come, because if he's doing something else, he won't. But I think it's so important. Ladies, if you have boys, teach them how to cook. Like, they need to know how to cook. It is not the 1800s where women stay in the kitchen and the men go out and do the farm work. Like, everybody needs to know how to prepare a meal and to have fun. Why are you still up, son? I don't know what time it is, but I know it's time to be in bed. Yes, we're talking about you. Good night.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of when my husband attempts to cook. I had really my best story was the time he made me ramen when I was on my deathbed. But I will tell you, I had COVID at Christmas, and my husband cooked one darn fine turkey. No, it was a
Wow.
ham. It was a ham. And I was pretty impressed with him. I was like, just save it, put it back in the deep freezer. He's like, well, we have to eat. I could do it. I was like, okay. Now, granted, he was a ham. He just had to warm it up, but I was pretty impressed with him. So I can't complain so much anymore. I think it was all just lies that he couldn't actually take care of himself. And, I fell for it.
That's funny.
Mm.
That's because you enjoyed
yeah.
taking
What?
care of him.
Yeah,
You said you
probably true.
enjoyed the cooking.
I do like it. I do like it. It's a part of me. I used to always get made fun of because pre-pandemic I traveled for a living and I would cook all of his meals and put them all in the fridge before I would leave. And I made the mistake of talking to a coworker about it because he was like complaining that his wife like never does that for him. And I was like, well, what do you eat when she's gone? And he's like, I make my own food. And I was like, oh, that must be nice. And then he told other people. And so now it's like, oh, well, Nikki, tell them what you do for your husband. I mean, I would even like pack snacks and all the things. It was pretty obsessive. But I like doing it. Like, you're right. I like doing it. It's terrible, but it's true. When I was a little girl, so my grandmother was a big, like, sit down at breakfast and have like a full breakfast kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing. We are a cereal family. But I remember because at night before she would go to bed, she would put a placemat out and she put a dish down and a fork and a knife and a glass and all my grandfather's pills and everything would be laying there. And I remember it clear as day. I don't even know how old I was, but I remember asking her, I said, Grandma, why do you do this every night? And she said to me, because when you start, they get used to it and you can't stop. So don't ever start. And every time I find myself ridiculous for my husband, I hear my Grandma Rose in the back of my mind going, you should never have started it because now you can't stop. Because she's right. They get used to it.
See, when I was growing up at home, not to the extreme of winter, but meals really were just something that you had to do most of the time. The food itself. Like my mom, I mean, she would do some kind of casserole or something, but it was kind of like just something she had to do. Like I don't think she ever enjoyed it. It was just her role, like her job. I didn't learn how to cook at home at all. We made cookie dough and pancakes. And even that, I remember, like my one sister especially will always remember I put baking soda in instead of baking powder, and it was completely inedible. That was when I was grown by then, at least mostly grown. But it just wasn't a thing. And I didn't learn that I liked cooking until I moved out of the house to another country and started experimenting with a cookbook that was made for America. Why did they give people they knew we were leaving the country, and they gave us these cookbooks with like all this different kinds of canned food and like ingredients, macaroni, and I don't know, things that you couldn't buy in another country. So we had to improvise constantly, which I turned out I really enjoyed. And I might not have ever known that I liked cooking and experimenting until then. And then when I was coming home, I decided I wanted to work in a restaurant and really learn how to cook. So that's what I did. Except it wasn't a really good restaurant. And so I learned a lot of bad habits. Good stuff too, but bad stuff. And I love it, especially with other people.
I never even knew what a casserole was until I was in high school and ate at a friend's parents' house, or friend's house, and their parents had cooked and put this casserole dish down with like noodles and sauce and all this stuff. And I remember thinking it was the weirdest thing ever. It was the same family that ate donuts for breakfast. And I went home and told my parents, and I was like, it's so cool. They get to eat donuts for breakfast over there. And my father was like, you're never going there to sleep again. But I never cooked in a slow cooker until I was in my late 20s was the first time I ever even used a slow cooker. I mean, because the way, it's funny, like I make rice. My husband's family's from Nicaragua, and they're like, oh, you make rice the old way? Because I'll have a rice cooker now. And I'm like, I don't even, why have a rice cooker when I can make it on the stove? But they think it's
Yeah, I
hilarious
agree.
that I'm Italian and I make rice on the stove versus using a rice cooker and they're Nicaraguan. But those were the only ways that I learned how to cook. Everything was complicated. There was no shortcuts. I've had to learn them
Yeah.
as I got older. But my
As I'm,
mother wasn't the cook in the family either. She would bake. And my dad cooked like my grandmother cooked, and my grandmother cooked like she did in the old country. So that's how I cook now, which isn't a bad thing.
I was at my cousin's and she made instant rice. And I was watching her thinking, like everything was pretty much done and she's pouring the stuff in. I said, I don't remember, but I was surprised. It takes like 20 minutes to cook rice, right? Like by the time to heat up the water and then cook it and all the stuff. But it took like 4 minutes because she like stuck it in the microwave for 3 minutes or whatever and it was done. And I was amazed.
I've never had instant rice.
Well, that was,
Unless
I think, my first
to me and I
time.
didn't know.
Right. And she said, no,
does it taste like regular rice?
I don't remember. I mean, more or less, I guess, but it can't be the same. Like, nutritionally, it can't be, can it? Like, if it's been like cooked before and then, I don't even know. But she had never made regular rice. Like, she had just always had instant rice and she didn't know that there were other ways of doing it. And I was like, oh, I've seen that. Like, I remember once she had it, I thought, oh, I think I've seen commercials for that. And I'm sure I saw it in the store and just never occurred to me to actually try it. And I won't. I mean, I won't.
She's like, I'm not going to do it. But now I know how it works.
But yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of shortcuts now that sometimes I think degrade the quality of food. But there's some shortcuts that just make sense. You like it?
I don't think she heard you.
Well, I got it.
Do you like your rice cooker?
On the truck because I needed a way to cook food because my cooker broke. Yeah, I'm on a delay. So, yeah, it was fine. I never actually used it on the truck after buying it for the truck, but I've used it like 3 times because I don't really.
Do you cook?
Does it make more than rice?
Yeah, I was about to say, do you cook other things in it besides rice?
She's got a terrible connection today. Yeah, I don't know. My husband's family uses it only for rice. I don't know if you could use it for anything else. I mean, I would think so. But does it cook the rice faster? Like, I guess I don't understand what the purpose is of having a million small appliances. That's really my biggest thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, you know what? I actually did get a garlic press because I realized we use so much garlic that it was worth it.
Like
yeah, that you squish.
Yeah, I don't consider that an appliance.
No, but
I mean, like
I usually just knife everything.
It's like the sucker for every appliance that's out there. She's got,
I can't take it.
The air fryer, and she's got some grill thing for her kitchen, and she's got the Vitamixer, and like her whole counter is full of small appliances. And I'm like, when do you use these things?
Right. My mom gave me a juicer. Like I used, it was.
I always wanted to try one. Did it work for you? Do you still use it?
I've used it several times and I have stuff in the fridge right now, but I'd be happy to like lend it to you and let you see if you want to have one or not.
Because I've heard they're really expensive, but after a week you get sick of using them, which is why I've never invested.
It's a hassle. It is a hassle to me.
It is.
We're talking about juicers. Winter. To clean it. Using it's not a hassle, but cleaning it, like there's a lot of parts you have to take apart and you got to scrub it with the brush because it's got like these little filters. And I mean, now that I've done it 10 times, it doesn't take as long because I can put it back together pretty quickly, take it apart. But even still,
it's extremely expensive to juice. Like it's almost cheaper to buy an organic pressed juice that's already done.
I think it is, or at least close. But like at the market, the guy sells cat. You better not claw me. Organic carrots and celery, which is the main thing that I've gone to where I use because it's the cheapest thing and it produces more. But if you try to use like kale or something like that, goodness, you get almost nothing. Like you get virtually nothing out of it. I'll throw some carrot. I have one carrot growing out of all the carrots. Right? It's too hot here for carrots, I think. But I don't eat the carrot.
Carrots, right?
I'm just like take the I cut the greens off when I'm juicing and put them in there to give it a little more vitamins.
She just keeps regrowing the same carrot for the tops.
Carrot. Yeah, I just snip off the leaves. Like I just take some.
Poor carrot.
So it's gonna have a long life because I'm not gonna ever eat it. I'm just gonna let it grow to seed or whatever. But
I don't know. If I have any luck with my 6 tomato plants, I'll be happy to provide you some tomatoes for your juicer. But
that's good. I can always use tomatoes. I do have some right now, but the little ones, yeah, the big ones don't seem to grow as well. I don't think these are really going to grow, to be honest with you, because he bought the wrong variety too. So we'll see. But as long as you've got room for eggs, because I'm going to be averaging 17 eggs a day here come the fall. So we're going to be making a lot of custard around this place. That's what I did when we had the ducks that laid eggs. We've had custard like 3 times a week. Put vanilla flavoring in at one time, coconut flavoring in at one time. Just all the different like little drops, that you can put in to make it taste a little different, so it doesn't taste the same all the time. And the boys love it. Goat milk and eggs and anyway, cooking with people and cooking for people, I agree, is by far the most fun. I miss like working in big kitchens with camps and things. Winter and I worked at kitchens together a couple times. She worked with me at camp, and we worked edible arrangements together for a while.
We did.
It was great.
It was cool.
I'm hungry.
It's exhausting, and it doesn't make it. They don't pay enough, but. Cat. It's going to knock everything off here. If the computer just crashes to the, like suddenly you're seeing the light above me, it's because the cat knocked everything over.
We will all yell cat for you. We now know the drill.
We have an extra dog right now, which I'm surprised everyone's being quiet because the extra dog is a little extra. He's driving the boys nuts, and I have no idea when he's going home. So I'm like, lots of barking, lots and lots of barking.
Stop! You're gonna knock. Stop.
So, Winter, I want to hear about Mason's experience with his milkshake and his cheeseburger because I saw your post and I had a laugh. For those of you who don't follow Winter, you should.
The happiness
he was so happy. Loving every minute of it, wasn't he? And he had no idea what he was eating.
When you edit this, Nikki, you'll put that picture up for everyone to see.
I'll throw it up there.
Because I have a 5-year-old great nephew, and when he's a very picky eater. So when he goes out to eat, he just wants the French fries. But I've been home for about 2 weeks and I haven't eaten out of the house, and I was close to this place called Plant Power, basically a fast food restaurant. It's like between McDonald's and, if you know the West Coast, In-N-Out together. So they have like burgers called the Zack Mac, and they have chicken sandwiches and French fries and animal fries.
No! What's wrong?
At least she pops back in quickly. Here she is. Nope, there she goes.
Well, here she comes. Good.
Can you hear? My internet is horrible. Evil.
We see that.
Okay.
Animal fries. We lost you at animal fries.
Okay.
Why would they call them animal fries?
Animal fries. And it has it's a out. They have a main menu which is just burgers and fries of varieties and
you can get
shake,
it
but they
animal
have a
style.
non-menu menu that if you get it animal style, so it's fries with grilled onions. There's special cheese. So they have a vegan version at Plant Power. It's super good. So they call it iconic fries there, or I think they just actually changed them. So, anyways, but it's super good, and so my nephew, my oldest nephew, his father cannot stand onions, so Jason doesn't like onions. So I have my fries. He has a cheeseburger with ketchup. I can't stand ketchup, and fries. And he got an Oreo milkshake. And so I'm watching him take the first bite, and I'm like, I know he's just gonna spit it out, right? And he takes his bite. Goes, mmm. I said, mmm. He's like, yeah. So he eats it, a sip of his milkshake. I'm like, is he gonna tell the difference? He goes, he puts it down. I'm like, so how was it? He was like, I like it. And then he just keeps eating. And so I have to take a picture because clearly he hasn't figured out what's happened yet. But then we come home, he has leftovers. I have leftovers. I'm like, are you gonna eat this for leftovers? He's like, yeah. So then he eats his leftovers. We come home, and like 5 hours later, he's eating his leftovers. He brings me my leftovers. I'm like, I'm not ready for it. I'm on a call. I'm at work. Here, you can just put it away. I go back, and my animal fries have like 3 fries left. The ones with the onions on them, they're gone.
Yeah. My kid would do that too. And
has
has a lot of times. What's supposed to be our lunch for the next day ends up being his snack before bed.
Oh, that's
and it could be like real food, not just French fries, but like, oh, there's a chicken leg. Okay, I'm like, that was your lunch for tomorrow. Yeah, me too. But he'll do that, like, even if it's. I don't know, it's a problem.
That. He'll stay up late and eat whatever's left over in the fridge, and like he'll eat the entire refrigerator, and I'll be like, well, I guess I'm cooking again tomorrow. But kids are funny about food. One more. So my nephew, who's now, God, he just turned 16, which is crazy. I think he was like 3 or 4, and they were staying with us. And I've been off dairy for a long time, and so I gave him cereal one morning because his parents were still sleeping, and he came into my room and he's like, Tia, I want breakfast. And so I take him downstairs and I give him cereal and milk. Well, he eats cereal at the time. He ate cereal dry in a glass of milk. That was how he did it. Well, I didn't have their milk. I only had soy milk. And so this is before almond milk was a thing. So I had given him his bowl of cereal and a glass of soy milk. And it was the same thing, Winter. I was like, oh, he's going to spit it out. He's not going to like it. He's not going to like it. And then he was drinking it. And I was like, I was so impressed with myself, right? He was done with breakfast. I've got him watching cartoons. I go wake my husband up. I'm like, Ethan drinks soy milk. And it was like so excited. I kid you not. When his parents woke up, he goes, Mommy, Tia gave me edamame milk and I drank it. Edamame milk. Because soy, right? Soybeans. That's how he knew it, was this edamame milk. And I was like, I did not pull a fast one on the child. He knew exactly what was going on. But they're hilarious sometimes.
Mason, I turned and poured on his cereal because we were out of the oven, and I'm perfectly happy with that. And I would give him, and I'd be like, here you go. And he would just start eating. I'm like, okay, we're good.
We're good. We're good.
Times I pulled a fast one on him.
Hey, you let the cereal sit in there long
but my
enough, it'll taste like whatever.
Eat anything that I eat because it can't be tasty. I'm like, technically, if you eat French fries anywhere than McDonald's, you're technically vegan. Well, unless they cook them in the same fryer. So go to Wendy's and get fries, and they're eating them. I'm like, that's vegan, right? And they're like, no. Because for them, the word vegan is just like horrifying.
Awful. It's all in what they get used to. I mean, I ate a lot of variety of stuff as a kid because that's what was put on my plate. My kids.
Did you have to you had to eat it if you got it?
So we did not have to clear our plates. My husband's family was a big clear your plate family. However, if I did not finish my food, then it sat on the counter, and the next time I got hungry, it was put back in front of me. My mother's like, I'm not making another meal. This is what you're eating. So it could be 9 o'clock at night. I could be looking for a bowl of cereal, but no, I'd be sitting there with a bowl of pasta, and it's like, here, finish this.
Yeah, my parents would put it out for breakfast even. Like if you refuse to eat it the night before.
We didn't go that far. My husband's family was a clear your plate family, which is a dangerous thing. And my children are very underweight, and I've become a clear the plate person, and I need to watch myself with it because I'm getting scared. I'm creating bad habits with them because they were very malnutritious. You know the word. They were just extreme malnourished. They were very underweight, but they were white diet kids. Like if you've heard, I mean, they literally have only eaten white food. So like plain cereal and milk and white bread and whatever. They had no variety in their meal menu or food until really just the last couple of years. And even then it wasn't very much. So I put stuff down in front of them all the time. And like every meat was chicken when they moved to my house. They're like, oh, it's chicken for dinner? Okay, we're eating chicken. I'm like, that's called steak. It tastes better than chicken. So they're starting to finally understand things that they like and don't like. But I'm scared that I'm turning into the clear your plate parent because I see the negative ramifications on that. Knowing my husband and his sisters, that will stuff themselves beyond full. Hi, Eddie.
Yeah, we always try to say, like, don't take that much now. You can always take more later, but don't take a lot at first. Just take a little bit and eat it and then get more because we're not going to run out of food because we have had food issues with Trooper, like, food insecurity. So it's like, but there's always food. Like we always have food. You can always eat. You're never going to starve. There are times when I'm like, look, you just finished eating, take a break and you can have some more later, but like it's there. You don't have to shove it. So I just thought of this. So on one hand, my mom was not really like in love with cooking as far as I could tell. On the other hand, she felt that it was important for us to experience a lot of things. So she would buy and prepare foods that most people don't really eat.
Really?
And that she didn't even like. She would get things like she got liverwurst one time. And we tried like just different kinds of vegetables or different kinds of things. The first time she ever bought shrimp, she didn't know. She'd only had them at restaurants. She didn't know they were raw.
Oh.
So she started eating them. And like they were bad. So anyway, like the liverwurst, nobody liked it. There was a couple things like that where no one, or something burned, like we just ate it anyway because you couldn't waste it.
My parents never served anything that they didn't like. So like we never had liver.
I do all the time.
Because my mother was forced to eat it as a child and hated it. We never had Brussels sprouts until recently where we learned we can cook it in bacon grease and drizzle some balsamic on it and it's delicious. But they never served anything that they did like to eat. Now my husband loves liver because my mother-in-law ate it and he liked the way she prepared it and he'll order it off a menu. He likes it. But I don't know. It's all in what you're used to, I guess, eating growing up or what you've experienced eating growing up. And then as you get older, your tastes change and your willingness to try things change too. And I will say, one thing I learned from one kid's therapist was she was like, give up the vegetable fight. She's like, just give it up. It's not worth it. It's literally not worth it. Put it on the plate. If they want to try it, they can try it. If they don't, they don't. So they're exposed to it, but don't force it on them because then they'll eat nothing. I mean, my kid will force himself to choke on a green bean just because he refuses to swallow it. It's that bad. And she was like, give it up. It's not worth it. Give him a multivitamin and give it up. Like, it's not worth it. And our meal times have gotten so much better since I finally gave up that fight.
Into
my
the
children
pasta.
consume, I do hide it, but my kids consume a massive amount of fruit. And they have their vitamins daily. And as they get older, they'll, she's like, as they get older, they're going to want to try other things. And I'm seeing it with my daughter a little bit now. Like she'll stick a chip in anything. What's up, buddy?
Yeah. My husband still doesn't. He eats hardly any vegetables, and his mom's always saying, "Well, you ate it when you were a kid," and it's like, because you forced me to. And like, it's an issue now where he will now eat like a little bit of broccoli. Like, there's things that he'll eat after being out of the house for a really long time. But for the longest time, he would say, "Well, now I'm an adult and I don't have to eat it," and he just wouldn't eat it. And I wonder if he hadn't been forced to eat it his whole life, if he would have learned to try it and enjoy trying it. And
Maybe.
he slowly is, slowly after 20 years, like, trying. But there's still a lot of things that just make him gag because it was such a negative thing. Like, he just can't eat corn or peas or a lot of things that they ate all the time when he was a kid that he didn't really like, but he had to eat them. And so now he's like, absolutely not. It just like makes him.
It becomes a mental thing. Like, my kid's not really choking on a green bean, but his face will turn red. His eyes will start tearing, and he will start coughing as if he's choking for real. And it's, who knows what happened before he lived with us with green beans, but that's a big one. It is. It's 9:05. Thanks, Winter. Should we wrap up? I could talk about food all day.
Yeah, I think another time, not next week or maybe the other, but another topic. Well, yeah, we could talk about other kinds of things too, like just recipes. And I'd love to have people on who do a lot of cooking, or someone who like runs a kitchen, or things like that, to have people on to share ideas and tips and stuff too. Will be fun.
Absolutely.
Eventually.
Pick other people's brains. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. If we're still live on Facebook, I haven't even looked because I'm always scared that it's died somewhere amidst. Oh, good. As always, we'll get this edited and up on YouTube for you guys eventually. Next week, which will be she's gone again. Should be week 14 if I'm counting correctly. We are talking about diversity in entertainment, right? So diversity of all manners and
characters and writers and directors, not absorbing different genres.
Yes, as in the characters that we see, which is perfectly aligned with a lot of the conversations that are happening in the writing world anyway, specific to books. But this is even a broader look as to what we see in all forms of entertainment, right?
Yeah, and I'm interested to discuss it because it's something I didn't know was, well, being a white girl, I didn't know it was a thing until later, and then I was like, oh my goodness. Anyway, we'll talk about it next time. But it's a very interesting topic to me, and something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about and working on, and even investing in. So
yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be a really good discussion. I just told everybody what we're doing next week, Winter, so you're back just in time to say bye. Is she back? She's just staring.
She's not hearing us yet. She's got to give her whole little well, to put words in Winter's mouth, like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that.
That's Winter's, usually. That's her thing at the end.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, ladies. I'll see you guys next week. It's been great.
Yes, it has. Good night.
Bye.
Bye, Winter.
Bye,
Winter. You see us waving? There she goes.
Bye.